Hey, this is Tom Calvin. Thanks for tuning in to Tomorrow's Legends.
You have been through a lot in 9 years, and I'm very proud of you.
The protector of Central City has been running for 9 years, and all the paths that he's taken are about to converge into one last moment.
The whole timeline will be at stake.
Join the Justice League of Superhosts as they keep up with the Flash and share his journey to the final run. Welcome to Tomorrow's Legends and their coverage of the final season of The Flash.
Hello? Flash? Flash? Gideon? Have you seen Flash? Well, I guess I'm driving the Waverider this week as we fly into the world of dreams. Speed demons? Or maybe I should call us dream warriors this week. We will be discussing The Flash, Season 9, Episode 7, Wildest Dreams. And I'm just glad we got the dream source and not Freddy Krueger. I'm X-Force 11.
I'm the heckling Silver Vox.
And I'm your eye-in-the-sky green butterfly.
Hello, legends.
Oh, there she is.
She was taking a nap.
Yeah.
Checking out the dream world.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
So, looking at the promo for next week and all of the talk about time anomalies, I'm wondering if we're going to get to see some legends in this episode. The episode description talks about a friend of Team Flash, and I'm like, okay, I don't know about this because IMDb lists Diggle and also lists Bloodwork, but I don't know if I'm going to trust IMDb and think that that's just who we're going to see. But I mean, we're talking about time, so I'm kind of wondering if we're going to get to see the legends in this episode. But I don't know yet because they haven't released any images for this episode yet, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Do we have a title for it?
Yes, it is. Hang on one second. Let me look.
Partners in Time.
Yes, Partners in Time. I had to scroll up and I was like, where is it? Yeah, Partners in Time. So it looks like that Barry and Iris are, again, like stuck in a time loop or something. Something's weird with time. Things are repeating. So I don't know what's going on, but we'll see. We'll see. But we do know that April 12th, there will be no new Flash. On Monday and Wednesday of that week, they're re-airing the Red Death two-parter. So we've got a new episode next week, and then the week after we have got a break. And we should have one more week break somewhere in there. As soon as we know where that it's going to be, we'll let you know.
Mm-hmm. I hope our Flash Martin sits down and rewatches both parts and enjoys.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so too. Oh, me. But
meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
So, let's talk about our general impressions of the show. So, I gave this one 7 dreams to bring clarity. I thought it was a better episode than last week. Again, no introduction of the arc for the rest of the season, but we kind of knew from the producers that we were going to bring some closure to the Arrowverse with this final season and some of its characters. So I did enjoy the Iris and Nia connection there and their kind of team up in this episode. And it proves that Iris's struggles with the future are real since they didn't get solved after episode 1. She's still got those lingering thoughts, and I think that shows, plot progression, and, that she's really still struggling with, is her future written or not? So I like those aspects, but it just wasn't super strong for me. So that's kind of my thinking on things.
Yeah, that's a good summary. I'm also in that same neighborhood. I'm going to give it 7.5 sentimental dreams. It was a treat to spend time with Nia again after Justina and my many years with Supergirl. The story was just weak. It was too compacted, not really fleshed out enough, I thought, to really give it the weight and the gravitas that maybe it could have. Mark is still an idiot, but I appreciate that Iris is willing to learn from Nia on this journey and put her future in a perspective rather than just predestination, but more in line of intentional past choices that lead up to where she is now. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Absolutely X-Force.
Cool. Green Butterfly?
And perhaps it's because I am feeling sentimental that I actually gave this episode 10 out of 10 decisions that lead to your destiny. And I did feel, I agree with your statement that this story was a little bit rushed, but I feel like final seasons of shows often get that rushed feel because we want so much out of them because we're spending our last moments with our characters, and so it always seems like it's moving too fast. And I thought that this was a perfect interpretation of what the showrunners set out for us at the beginning articles when they announced that there was going to be 2 main comic arcs with an interlude in the middle. So I think a story taking place mostly in a dreamscape is a perfect place for type of episode to be your interlude episode between the 2 big stories.
Okay, good points there. So even though he's not here, I just see that we got a message from the Flash. So let's take a listen.
Hey guys, Flash here. Just want to get in my rating and review because that's probably all you guys are going to want to hear from me today. I'm giving this one, yet again, a 5. 5 dreams I hope to never have again. I honestly thought this was going to be an alright episode when they first started going through the doors and they're going from nightmare to nightmare and what's going on, what do we have to figure out. I thought this might be a cool concept. This might actually be fun and interesting. But it ended up not going that way. I don't know, like 10 minutes into the episode, they already lost their concept, they lost their ideas, they lost their creativity, they lost my interest. Dreamer, I know you guys really liked her on Supergirl, and I was hoping to get to know who she was and what she's all about here, but they give you a quick recap as to what she's all about, and it still doesn't make any sense to me. I still don't understand what her power is. All it looks like to me is I can harness dream energy and focus it into hand blasts, because guess what? Every hero in the CW universe has hand blasts. That's the only thing we know how to create. Hand blasts. So, big, complete fizzle and cop-out yet again for me. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know anything about Dreamer, and she just ends up being another hand blast hero. Can't buy into that. I just can't buy into it. The CW creators have lost all ingenuity and creativity. As for the rest of this episode, just Iris and Dreamer. Are you kidding me? Did Grant Gustin sign a contract saying, I don't want to be in the last season of my own show. Just do all the episodes without me? Because that's what's happening. We don't even get the Flash. We're 7 episodes in, and he's barely been here. Like, what is going on? This is seriously how you're going to take the Flash off the air and out into the sunset, is by not having him even part of his own show? I am so frustrated. This is by far the worst season of Flash yet, and it's the last one, and that is disappointing, and that is hurting, and it's crushing my my Flash fandom heart that this is how they are taking Flash off into the sunset, by him not even being there, and by writing these absolutely dull, boring, uninteresting episodes. I'm so frustrated. So I hope you guys have a good discussion. I'm sorry I can't be there tonight. Maybe it's best that I'm not, because that's the way I'm feeling right now about it. But I just bought Dungeons and Dragons tickets at the same time that you guys decided we wanted to record. So I'm sorry that I can't be there. Hopefully I get to enjoy a good movie and you guys get to enjoy a good podcast. And I'll catch up to you guys next week. Have a good show.
And he adds, and who was the glowing-eyed lady? She seemed cool until they revealed her, and all she did was stand there, smiling like a dwarf in the Lord of the Rings, but never said a dang thing. So what's their point of her? I don't know. I think Martin missed some of this by not, getting the dreamer lore, and I'll push back a little bit for him, because I think if we get a similar style episode where the legends are on there, he would feel differently. I don't know if, when the legends come on board, it's going to be a very light episode like this episode, but I think it's a little bit of having connection with a character and having connection with Nia. And I agree that it was a very light episode, but we'll get into it.
I'm just sad for you, Flash, because I know how much you love this show, and I'm just sad that it's been letting you down, because I know how it feels when you love a show and it's not going the way that you want it to go. And I agree that they probably didn't explain the Naltorian stuff well enough for somebody that hasn't had previous experience with Dreamer, but I also feel like they would have never had time to even do as much plot as they did had they had more explanation involved. And I think that I didn't get that same feeling as you did, Flash, because I was excited to see Nia's ancestor, knowing that that was something that she was interested in and really needed in her life, and that was a hanging thread from our Supergirl days. So I felt very satisfied by it, but I'm sorry that it once again gave you another week of down feelings towards the Flash.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into it.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe, here in this great hall of justice, are the most powerful forces of good ever assembled.
All right, so let's kick it off with, I'm going to do it with the main section of the discussion, with the main section of the podcast tonight with Iris and Nia. And we get an introduction where Nia is dreaming in National City Jitters, and I had to take a step back because when it said NC Jitters, I'm like, is Nia in North Carolina now? But then I saw it was National City Jitters. I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. But her dreams, she's dreaming about being confronted by all these people, and there's this woman in a blue robe who comes and takes her powers and kills Iris. And so this was kind of a startling start to the episode. What did y'all think about that?
My first thought was I couldn't believe that the lady at the Jitters yelled at her. I was just like, I know that might be somewhat disconcerting, that she, is a little bit shocked by her dreams, but I never imagined getting, asked to leave a coffee shop just because you have fallen asleep. But I was immediately taken back to some of the stories we had with Dreamer, and I was glad that they remembered to use the strong imagery with the ravens and the spiders right in these opening dream sequences, because it took me right back to her mythology and the beginning of when her dream powers first started to manifest.
Yeah. And I was just going to add that I'm sure Martin is not the only one who may be listening here who doesn't have the background of who Nia Nal is, right? So if we could just take 3 minutes, right? And just to say that Nia was introduced in season 3 of Supergirl, and she is a Naltoran. She comes from a long line of females who have these dream powers. She's able to anticipate things before they happen, which I'm really sorry that they didn't implement that in this episode. She's able to see things as they happen before they happen, and again, they didn't really hone in on that, so that's a shame. So I think that gives her a certainly more well-rounded demonstration of her powers, rather than just harnessing the dream energy and manifesting it to do whatever she needs to. And we talked about that on Supergirl, that her dream powers seem to be kind of the utility power of the week that solved whatever the issue was.
Yes.
Right. So I understand, the Flash's frustrations with that. I think that the issue of context is huge, right? Because again, this did wrap up some things from the Made of Steel and Supergirl days, right? When we podcasted about that, was our podcast Made of Steel. So knowing that and having that context, I think, presents a whole different picture of this episode than it would if you're not familiar with who Nia is. True. Right? And I know there were a lot of people who followed the Flash who didn't follow Supergirl. They just didn't, right? So context is huge in this in this presentation. So what I had hoped for is that the dreams that Nia was having, and this also happened to her, right? She would have just visions that would need investigation and to figure out what was going on and things of that nature. But I wish it were more a case of, okay, this will play out in ways that will ultimately get us to where we need to go. And I think they finally got there at the end. But what we're used to seeing with her is sometimes that would take a whole arc of different episodes and all the different information points and things that would lead her along the way, right? And unfortunately, we just didn't have that time here, right? So yes, you see her losing the power to manifest the dream energy, but I would challenge Martin and invite anybody to go back into season 3 and beyond in Supergirl and check this girl out. And I will also say, as far as Nicole Maines goes, who is the actor who portrays Nia, this was groundbreaking in terms of being the first transgender person to portray a superhero in the CW Arrowverse, and it was groundbreaking in that also Nicole Maines has gone on to write comics about her character and has gone on to continue the storytelling that is a part of Dreamer, from here on out. And I think that's going to continue from what I understand. And so I'm excited about that for her. I love that she is so invested in this character. And so I welcome whatever time that we have with her through the Flash or through any other vehicle that they would choose to use her.
Yeah, and honestly, I think knowing that we were not going to get Supergirl in the closeout of Flash because of just the filming schedules and the development deal and all that is going on, I think Nia makes the most sense of the characters to bring over because of we hear about this. It gets introduced earlier, but now we'll talk about it here a little bit. But Iris has been to the mimosa brunch with Nia, Alex, Kara, and Ryan.
Yep.
And so it kind of makes sense to bring her over because it would be less of an introduction than, Martian Manhunter or different things like that. So I think she is the most logical one out of who we have available to bring over. And I appreciate you both of you sharing who she is and about her thoughts and about her dreams, because I had forgotten about the ravens and the spiders being part of her dreams until you said that, and it brought back memories to Supergirl. So that's a good point of bringing those in, because those were a part of her journey as the dreamer and her progression through things, and so that ties it into the Supergirl lore. So
right. The other thing that I think was just a little bit weak was that I didn't really understand and feel the tie of why the dream source, if I guess that's the best thing to call her for us on this show, why the dream source needed to tie Nia in with Iris. I didn't really fully grasp why the two of them needed to find this journey so that Nia then could level up as such, into her powers. If it was sort of like a trial where she needed to show that she could use the interpretive powers to bring somebody else along their way. I wish there was a tiny bit more exposition of why we needed these two. So
yeah, I think for me, and it wasn't maybe brought into the story clear enough, Nia looks up to Iris as a job role model. Mm-hmm. She talks about that she looks up to Iris and her reporting, and she sees her as a role model in that area. So I think in the first dream that she had that we're talking about now, Iris is her voice of being a role model and talking about control. And so once she goes to Central City, then Dreamer, the Dream Master, or whatever brings Iris in. But I think that first dream was just Nia's own subconscious bringing her in as trying to rationalize, control maybe. I don't know, but I agree. They could have done a little more explanation of why she was originally brought in.
I don't know. Green Butterfly, did that bother you at all, or?
I wasn't bothered per se. Like I said, there were some things that were left sort of hazy and confusing, which I think in a way works with this episode because it is the Wildest Dreams episode. It is almost entirely dream in nature, and that is how we dream most often, at least in my experience. I can say, like, I'll wake up from dreams and I can remember certain things so vividly, and other things are just very, very fuzzy and unclear. So it was almost as if this story was having a dreamlike quality in itself, where there was some parts where I was like, where are we going with this? But it worked for me, and that's why it still got a really high grade, because I felt like it was honoring the media that was our subject, which was dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good stuff.
So Iris is at work and she's talking with Barry. She's working late and she's working on this article, and Allegra comes in and presents the headline of the article, and it's on the Red Death, and it's titled Nightmare Under Red Skies, and per Barry's book, it is the article that gives her her first Pulitzer. And so, again, she's leery of publishing it because, going back to episode 1, she's scared. She's hung up on her future being mapped out and her having no agency in it. And they are kind of looking at Iris thinking that she has no agency, and Nia searching for this dream source and wanting to level up and, being drawn into this dream. They're kind of comparing and contrasting these two. And the dream source pulls them both into the dreams. And so I kind of want to look at this kind of dream by dream, because it's kind of like an Inception type of deal where they go from dream to dream as things get worked out. And so in the first dream, it's really Iris's dream, and she is the chief of CCPD, and Nia's a cop. And so this is exploring Iris thinking about, in the past she thought about pursuing her dad's career and going into the police force. And so this is her looking at things and saying, okay, what would it have been like if I, followed in my dad's footsteps? And I thought this was a neat little dream. So what were your thoughts about it?
I really liked this first one. I liked the idea of seeing what Iris's life would have been like if she would have taken on, like you said, honoring her dad's career and following in his footsteps versus taking her own path and going into journalism. It was really fun for me to see this side of her that is very Joe-like, because we all have parts inside of ourselves that are like our parents, and I just could imagine. Joe is so proud of his baby girl now, but I would just imagine what kind of pride he would have too had she taken this path. And it was just fun to take a moment to be like, what if she would have made a different choice? So I really liked Dream 1.
Well, and I love your use of the word agency here, Jeff, because I'm still a little bit stuck in Martin's evaluation of the episode, and I think I don't know this for sure. I've not read this. This is pure speculation, but I think there's been some behind-the-scenes drama of The Flash that Candice Patton, I think, has not felt like she has been brought to the table in ways that she could have been, right? Particularly in seasons 6 through 8, where she did take much more of a background type of role. She wasn't there half the time, it felt like, right?
Yeah.
And so this is me projecting, right? This is no based on any source, but this is, I think, also a great way to put Iris in the forefront to say, okay, had I not gotten involved with the Flash, and that then led to me wanting to write about it, and that kind of a thing. What if my life looks like something different, right? And I think that's a desire not just for Iris, but I think it's a desire for Candice as well. And I know I'm getting psychological and weird and all that stuff, but my point is, I think agency is a big deal here, right? And so and I think it's appropriate for Barry to back off a little bit. Yeah, I know it's the last season. Yeah, I know the show is his. Yeah, I mean, good gracious, we've been down this road before where Supergirl felt like a a side character in her own show, kind of a thing. So these things kind of ebb and flow, right? I have no doubt that he's going to take front and center stage in the last, whatever arc we're headed toward. But in the meanwhile, let some of these other characters have their moment in the spotlight, right? And I don't know. I just I think agency is a perfect description of not just this first dream, but all of them. So,
yeah, I think so. And I like it or not, the show is The Flash, but we have established throughout the run that it's about Barry and Iris.
Yeah.
It's not just about Barry. Yeah. And it gives her the opportunity to own her reporting skills and her job choices. It gives her the ability to have that front and center role that she can't as, just being behind the scenes in the midst of meta action. Right. So it gives her a way to do that. And so she thinks about this in this dream, and she realizes, while it would have been interesting, and it's not, it's not me. It was a fantasy when I was little, but not me. But I do like the little shout out to Lisa and Leonard Snart. So in that reality, the Snart siblings were still evildoers, and she took them down. So that was a neat little shout out. Nice. But moving on to dream number 2, she is the manager of CC Jitters, and Barry and Chester are working for her. And everything's going crazy. The machine's breaking down, and people are demanding their drinks, and she's still on top of it. She lets us know that she worked at Jitters, she enjoyed working there. And so to me, at this point, in watching the episode for the first time, I said to myself, okay, we're going to see every career path Iris has ever wanted to take, and she's actively avoiding reality due to the Pulitzer pressure. And so those were my thoughts when Dream 2 hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Because you could tell at the beginning of the episode that she was hesitant the article was essentially done, but she was so hesitant to push that publish button because she felt like she could still do better and still do better and still do better. So she was totally second guessing that the article was already wonderful. She definitely kept thinking, no, I can one up this. And, I thought that dream number 2 was a great way to feature some extra characters for us, so we can get to see Barry and Chester in a pretty comedic moment. I thought that was a very light part of the episode, watching them just sort of rush around, and how she really did have that power of, okay, look, focus. The big machine is broken, but you can fix anything. Go get some parts from over here, and telling Barry, look, the hand frother is not broken, so you can finish this order. And she just immediately brought order to the chaos and started calming things down. And so again, she gets to be a leader here, but also doesn't have the weight connected to the manager at Jitter's job. Is born, her dreaming of this one is born out of her desire, I think, to not have as much responsibility on her shoulders and being able to clock out at 5 and forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the third dream, right? This anger, right? It's the trauma that's reflected back at them, and Iris does. And it's not that she so much wants to be able to leave work behind. I think she doesn't want anybody telling her what to do. I mean, I think is what it comes down to. She's built up this, quote unquote media empire, right? And so therefore there's a huge amount of expectations that goes along with that. And I think at some point she's just like, I don't want to have that pressure. I don't want people to move me in those directions. I don't want Allegra to, congratulate me for my first Pulitzer. I don't want those high expectations. And I think at some point we've all been there where we're like, I'd love just to go home and not think about work.
Yep.
And, but the reality is, if we do what we do well, it's going to be a reflection of us not in segmentation, right? It's a part of who we are. And so, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and this kind of forces them back into Nia's nightmare, and then they get zapped by the hooded figure to CC Media. And this is where it really takes it to the next level, because Iris is looking at all of her employees, including Allegra, backbiting her and tearing her down, saying she doesn't deserve the Pulitzer and the fame. And really, Iris is talking things out to herself in the dream. I think she's having imposter syndrome and really wanting to have her own destiny. She's thinking that she didn't earn anything because she got everything because of her connection to the Flash, and it's none of her own destiny. And we'll get to this later because it's my favorite scene, but I appreciate that Nia really shows her that all along she has been making her own choices, and every action that she does is her confirming where she's at. But this dream was really her pushing back against herself, thinking she doesn't deserve it.
Well, and also I think it was very important that Nia told her, you cannot take every word that's said here to heart, right? Mm-hmm. Just like Green Butterfly was saying, these are dreams, right? Which means these are not Allegra's feelings, and these are not your coworkers trying to tear you down. These are your insecurities, right? And so the longer you spend here, the more your mind is going to take things in a whole complete 180 than how they really are in reality.
Yeah, I appreciate that Nia shows us her experience in the dream world and shows us what she's learned. And for those that don't know her, this is what she does. She's learned to interpret. She's learned to take what she dreams about and interpret it and put it into action in the real world. And this kind of shows that as she's talking with Iris.
And I love that they, even though there is an age difference and an experience difference between Nia and Iris, that they really listen to each other throughout the episode and hold each other up and get each other through what they are dealing with. I mean, you get Nia coming in and telling us that that Iris is, our hero from a career standpoint, but to have this episode where it's not just hero worship all the way through, it's not just everything that Nia can learn from Iris and that being a reflection of how good of a reporter Iris is, but they both go back and forth while in the dream realm, showing their strengths to each other and lifting each other up and getting each other through it, bringing both of their strengths to the table and using it together in this combined dream world.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because Iris helps Nia just as much and talks her out, about her giving up control and her fears surrounding the hooded figure. And so I appreciate that they're both equally helping each other out in this dream world, because by this point, their dreaming has merged together, and they're kind of both needing to progress in order to go forward, because once Iris's dilemma is solved, they're not out of the dream, because Nia has to make her progress. And she chooses to symbolically go through the spider webs that the spider that had killed her mom, and go through those things and make that confrontation to progress forward. And it's only when Nia embraces giving up control and letting that the power of the dream take full effect, is when she realized that this hooded figure is the source of all dreams, the original dreamer, and then that's what pushes them back into the real world. And so I really appreciate the two of them working together, but both making progress as far as their character goes.
Agreed.
All right, so once we're back in the real world, Iris hits publish, and so we get the article going out there. She's made her choice and it being published, and so I appreciate that she talked with Barry later about she's, as a reporter, she's writing her own destiny every time that she does an article, and I appreciate that she is owning up to, she's got influence with the Flash, but she is choosing to make the reality her own by publishing the articles. So
and again, for those not experienced with Nia, we should explain that this dream source, this is a new thing for us as well. Like, this is a new aspect to her character and the progression that she's on, and so on and so forth. So we don't have any background knowledge that you all don't, in terms of this. I just as a real simple question, but like, who are all the people that were around her, and what was their purpose? Because it was like, okay, what are we doing here?
I don't know if, like, once again, I mentioned Inception earlier. In Inception, the people in the dream were reflections of people's consciousness.
Okay.
And, when you started to change stuff, they got angry at you. So I'm wondering if that puts into play here. And I appreciate that you brought in that this dream source is new. I'm wondering if this is something that Nicole had agency in choosing,
quite possibly,
with the writers to say, this is something that I want to introduce, or it's been a part of the comics that I want to introduce, or something like that. Yeah. But thanks for bringing that in.
Yeah, because when I was doing Comic Corner for Made of Steel, and I picked some comic titles that were related to Naltorians, there is an original dreamer that they talk about, but it's not this person. This person that they announce here, because I feel like if we needed it to be the person that has already previously been in the comics, her name is Nia Nal, and it is known. So I feel like if they wanted to say that this dream source is her, they would have said her name from the comics. So I feel like this is even further back in time, because I think Nia Nal is only like 3 generations back from Nia. And it sounded like
Okay.
this dream source, they were going for an even more ancient power. And with Nicole Maines getting ready to start her very own comic arc in I think it's going to start in about 6 months in the comic books. I'm interested to see if this character is going to manifest over there.
Could be an introduction. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, great points. Thank you. So there's not a whole lot with Team Flash because we get to see them kind of interspersed in between the dreams. So Barry discovers both Nia and Iris flashed out, takes them to the 2-Star Labs, and I appreciate that we get a shout out that Kara, Brainy, and John are all off-world, so we can't depend on them for help. But then he mentions, Diggle and a couple others.
Cisco.
So and Cisco,
he's going to call the League, and he talks about Cisco and Diggle, and I'm like, I don't know that they're the League, but whatever.
Well, yeah. So, but I appreciate that we're at least getting name drops to our other, Supergirl heroes as well. So,
I was so missing Caitlin in this episode in the Team Flash area because I was screaming, yelling, very upset at my TV every time we went back to Star Labs, where I was like, if you don't put these people in a bathtub or at least put some ice on their head, like, does no one know how to break a fever in this program?
Yeah.
They just all stand there and look at it like, it's getting higher. It's getting higher yet. And I was like,
that's hilarious. Not apparent among these people,
No.
I was like, okay, think logically, Butterfly. There's probably not a bathtub there, but I was like, a cold cloth, some ice. Do they not have a break room? Like, what's happening? I was so annoyed. I was like, if Caitlin were here, we wouldn't be having this problem.
No, not at all.
Every time we got back to Team Flash, I just got annoyed when their fever kept going up. Yep. And I was excited to learn about this angry sleep thing, because that was again another rule of the dream realm that I had no idea existed. Mm-hmm. That, if you spend too long in a dream, that it could actually become deadly to you. That was not really something that was brought up. So I like the introduction of this what would you call it? Like a danger of sleeping, like it has its own villain within it. So I was very interested in that. But yeah, I was yelling at the TV, guys. I was like,
well, and I'm curious, based on your point there, Green Butterfly, like, would it hurt Nia if she spent too long in there, or because she was tied with Iris at the same time, was that the danger? Because they both were dealing with the same high fever and and cognitive function, all that. But I wonder if that would be Nia on her own, if she would react that way, or just because she was tied to Iris, who's not a part and can't handle the dream world in the same way. I don't know. It's just a random curiosity. So,
well, I got the impression that it would hurt Nia as well. I would think that Nia would probably hold up longer because she is a dreamer. Yeah. But the fact that Nia knew the dangers of the angry sleep must mean that her mother had told her about it at some point, or she had learned it in her research. But if I had to guess, I'd say that as a dreamer, she might have more hours that she could put up with it. But for the show, the writers just made their temperatures be rising simultaneously, always at the same level. So I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, I think they were. I agree. If it was just her on her own, she would have had more time. But because they were so synced up with each other, it was drawing her down as well. So, one little tidbit that we did get in this episode, and it kind of blows the Iris's having twins, guess out of the window. We find out that Iris is pregnant with one kid, and they say it's Nora. So, Star Labs tech tells
Chuck.
him.
What does he know? I mean,
he's. But here's
not
the
an
thing.
OBGYN.
Here's the reason why I'm still feeling like we could get the Tornado Twins, and that is next week is called Partners in Time. So, there's no guarantee that either this next interlude episode or our next big bad is not going to mess with the timeline yet again, leaving our absolute finale in a totally different spot. So just because they said that is happening today, I worry with, I conjecture with titles like Partners in Time, and knowing how when you get speedsters involved running through the timeline, we might go through a couple more timeline changes before our finale airs.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Yeah. Good point. Remember how we lost Sarah and became...
Yeah.
God, we're still hurting over that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Minivox and I are going back through Arrow, and Sarah's been born. I'm like, oh, poor Sarah.
but now she's back, right? Crisis brought her back.
Yeah, she's back.
So if Minivox gets upset, just tell him to keep on watching. He'll get her back eventually.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's close out the discussion with the Mark and Keon section.
Gotta address the big idiot in the room.
Yeah. So, Mark is working with Keon on her ice powers. And, gosh. And any excuse to get Mark shirtless, I guess, for the guy, to get this guy shirtless so that, the ladies can swoon over him, because, something gets spilled on him and he rips off his shirt. So,
and he's been doing salmon ladders with Stephen Amell. It's clear to me that salmon ladders is definitely part of his workout plan.
Yeah. But we learn that this is all a dream, because he's confessing his love to Keon, but it's a dream. He wakes up and this is a dream too. I'm like, well, okay.
Wildest dreams indeed.
Yeah. So, but the funny thing is, it's Chuck and Keon that wake him up, and they're overhearing that, and she calls him out on having a crush on somebody. But goodness, this just, I don't know, this Mark has her blow off monitor duty training to go with him, and basically he is taking her to all the places that he and Frost love, and this is just crashing and burning, and it gets epically bad when they get to the bar, and I know that's a favorite scene, so we'll talk about that later. But goodness gracious, she just calls him out like, you have never tried to get to know me. You're just trying to force me into Frost's shoes and into her role. And I was just like, ouch.
Well, and I've gone off on this already on this show, right? His fixation with getting Frost back nearly killed Barry. I mean, if we're coming down to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he still cannot get this out of his head, and which I'm glad that finally they addressed it at the end of the episode. But
yeah,
it's, and unfortunately it had to take really hurting her feelings and, hurting Keone for him to finally, wake up to this. And I guess I said back then, what's the deal? Like, when are you going to be able to give this up? And I guess now we're at that point, thankfully. Yay.
Yeah, I thought we were the other episode, but right. I guess not. Yeah. So we close out the episode with a family brunch.
Can we please get a sound clip of the group saying hi to, or hey to Mark? That's got to become part of the lexicon of this show, right?
Yeah. Anytime somebody
gives a mediocre rating or something, you just go,
or somebody we don't want to see.
Yeah, like a character, you're like, why are we spending any time on that? I just push the button. That'd be perfect.
Honestly, before Keone froze everything, I would have appreciated an invite to brunch because everything on the table looked great. I'm like, yeah. I want Iris's, actually, I want Cecile's family recipe because everything looked really good.
Allegra knows people. She can get
right
that
there
for
with
you.
Chuck. Yeah.
You've got in here, and I think we do need to make this point before we get back to the brunch. Mm-hmm. You've got in here that Cecile is able to kind of sync up with the dream source, and at one point she calls her like a guardian angel, and there's this shot over to Allegra, who kind of looks up into nothing, right, expecting to see an angel. I mean, I'm sorry, I busted out laughing. Like, what are we doing here? she just looks up and around like it's just going to become visible to her, and like
I don't know. I mean, crazier things have happened on this show and in this universe. It's like she's just expecting to see somebody show up.
So I'm sorry, I just sidetracked there. But anyway, back to brunch. It does look amazing.
Yeah, and so Mark shows up and he really comes clean to Keone, and he's going to go off and work on himself, and more power to him. Let him go and really go through the stages of grief and not bring anybody else into it, because he obviously, this episode shows us, he has not gone through
he's not ready. He needs to process.
No, and I mean, yeah, that's got to be hard if you're seeing the face of somebody you love every day. You've got to take a break and get away. I haven't known anybody that has lost somebody who had a twin, but I mean, it's got to be that type of situation where every day you're seeing that person who looks just like the person you love. So yeah, I think a break is what he needs, to step back, go away, get some time, reflect, and then come back. And hopefully we can get a little bit better storyline for him, since he is a regular. So
well, and I don't remember in season 8 when they all kind of went and did their memoriam to Frost, right? Barry went off and did the whole checklist of things, and Joe did art, and so on and so forth. I don't remember if Mark did anything, and I think that's kind of part of the process. He just has not, gotten himself together to bring closure, to this, and I think that hopefully that's what he's going to get. So,
yeah.
And that brings up the question that I had in my mind that I wanted your guys' opinion on of, like, because we do know that Mark got made a series regular this year, like, how long do you think that he'll be gone before he rejoins this final season?
Just next episode.
You think it'll just be a one episode absence?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he won't be present next episode, and then when we come back...
And they better not have the gall to, like, bring him in some kind of heroic moment. You know, when he comes back and, like, saving the team or so on. That's not going to do me at all.
No.
Like, he better come back, tail tucked between his legs and, doing some serious repentance, because this is stupid.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to add before we move on?
I don't think so.
All right. So we're going to take a break here, and you might hear some ads, you might not, but we're going to take a break.
Shape out an eagle!
All right. We are on to our favorite scenes and just looking at things. Green Butterfly, you're up first.
Well, I was so excited for this episode. I'm so excited for Dreamer's return. And I picked this scene where everyone that didn't already know Dreamer and Nia Nal got introduced to Dreamer that I know and love, and for us, the fans that have been with her the whole time, I had a really good time catching up with Dreamer.
Iris. Nia. Hi, what are you doing in Central City? Came to see you. Sorry to pop in so late.
No, it's fine. I had a great time at Mimosa Brunch with you, Kara, Alex, and Ryan, but I didn't expect to see you again so soon.
Yeah, it was great to finally meet you. I didn't want to make it a thing, but you're kind of my career role model.
I am?
Yeah, I mean, that story you told us about being kidnapped by Cicada and then fighting your way out and writing about it the next day like nothing happened, it still gives me goosebumps.
Well, look, I'm happy to see you, but what's up with the late visit? What's going on?
Well, for the past 5 years as Dreamer, I've been honing my powers, and, well, not to brag, but I can turn dream energy into just about anything. So lately, I've been trying to take my powers to the next level, and I read about this ancient source of Naltorian dream energy. So I've been going into the dream realm to try to find it, and I could sense that I was close in my last dream, and then my powers got erased. Look. Normally something happens here. It's like every time I try to call on it, it just feels further away. And I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I think that the only person who can help me is you.
Okay, how?
You were in my dream too. And Iris, something really bad happened.
So I loved this because I loved catching up with Nia, but I also cracked up at the fact that after all the episodes of Supergirl where we made a little bit of fun where the dream energy could just do whatever we needed the dream energy to do at that moment, that they literally wrote a line that stated that the dream energy could do almost limitless things. So I felt like they were really like, okay, we see you, we hear you, and we can't argue with you, so we're just going to write it right in there and be like, yep, that's what we're doing. It just does what we needed to do. So I really appreciated that they were like, We hear you.
Yeah. And she's even like, and not to brag, but this can do anything. Too good. Too good.
Nice. Okay, Vox, you're up next.
All right, so I don't know why. Maybe it was just because I was tired when I watched it to begin with. But when Mark and Keon go to the bar, and the comes up to karaoke, and the guy's like, "Ice Pack is here," and Keon says, "No, I'm sorry," and I love this. It's, thank you very much. You know?
So sweet.
That's right. You're very kind. But they won't be performing because Frost is dead. And so Mark just keeps going, and he digs himself a hole further and further. And the bar people, the patrons around him, like going off on him, Mystery Science Theater 3000 style, is just too funny. And again, it's probably not when you analyze it, but maybe I was just tired, but I just thought it was hilarious.
All right, let's take a listen.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your kindness. Unfortunately, Frost and Mark will not be singing tonight because Frost is dead.
Wait, what?
And he has a lot of explaining to do. It all makes sense. You've been trying to turn me into Frost since day one. First with the CRC, and now with everything we did today.
Oh, I can't explain. I just miss her so much. I'm not thinking straight.
Oh, come on. I thought you were a real friend.
I am. Just saying that I could be more.
Yikes, man.
Yeah, Mark, we barely know each other.
Yeah, you tell him.
Okay, I had a dream.
A dream?
We were in it and we kissed, and it was amazing, and the chemistry was off the freaking charts.
No, you tell him.
No one wants to hear this.
So sue me! Sue me! If I just wanted to see if this could be the real thing.
Don't you ever talk to me like that.
But no, you're right. Clearly, you're not the woman of my dreams because you're not Frost.
Stop.
No, I'm me. But you wouldn't know anything about me because you never even tried to get to know me. And now I'm leaving.
A dream?
Don't you try to use that line on me.
Too good.
Comic relief. All right, so I'm going to close this out with the clip where Nia is helping Iris push through her problems. So let's take a listen to that.
So we're stuck in a dream. Our bodies are dangerously close to overheating, and you're worried about an award.
Yeah, I know. It's stupid.
Just talk to me. What's going on?
Well, right before you got here, I found out that the article that I'm writing is going to win me my first Pulitzer. Hazards of being married to a time traveler. I know way more about my future than most people.
But usually that kind of recognition is great for journalists. Why is it bothering you so much?
Well, suddenly it didn't feel like it was my own. It felt like it was preordained. Like I didn't earn it.
So that's why you've been dreaming of lives with no preordained destiny.
Where I can make my own choices.
Iris, you've already been making your own choices. You're worried about publishing today because it leads to your first Pulitzer, but that was a choice you made years ago when you decided to become a journalist in the first place. Don't you see? Every time you're pursuing a lead or staying up all night digging into a story.
I'm doubling down on that choice.
And that's the thing about destiny. It isn't just one choice. Destiny is the culmination of a lifetime of choices. You were always on the right path, Iris.
Yeah, I like that. I like how Nia helped her there and just, like, again, helping her show her own agency and her choosing the path that she's been on and, you know, choosing to embrace her career and letting go of everything. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was good. It was very good. I picked this out first, but you were in here first, and so therefore
I picked it too.
That's the fun of getting in the document first. A lot of times we're doing the same thing when we're doing Superman and Lois. The three of us are like fighting over which clip to do.
So clearly, X-Force, you are the fastest to the note document this week.
Yes. All right. Well, next up, we've got Cougar's Comic Corner. Fill us in, Green Butterfly.
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying Green Butterfly does know what show she's on. I didn't get confused on the way to the comic shelves. But instead of picking a Flash comic this week, I decided that I wanted to highlight one of Dreamer's stories in the comic that she helped write, and it is part of a Superman arc called Superman, Son of Kal-El, number 13. It is the dramatic DCU debut of Dreamer, when every hero on Earth is threatened by Henry Bendick's machinations. It's a race against time for Dreamer to warn Superman before it happens. But will this mysterious new ally's premonition become a nightmare for Jonathan Kent? And like I said, this is part of the Son of Kal-El arc. There are, if you do want to catch up on the whole story, there is some super issues available of the beginning of this arc. 1 through 10 is available as a super omnibus, and then but 10 through 16 won't be available as an omnibus till later this fall. So if you want to just catch up with the part that Nicole Maines helped write, that would be issue number 13, which I'm highlighting here, and that issue is $3.99 wherever you like to get your comics.
Excellent stuff. Yeah,
good stuff.
You are a plethora of Cougar's Comic Corner goodness.
Yes, indeed. We appreciate it so much. All right, folks, to help support our podcast, you can become a Patreon member, and this is how you do that.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
Well, at this point of the show, I would normally play a feedback bumper. But this week we don't have any feedback. I don't know if people were just caught dreaming or what. But we do appreciate your feedback, and if you want to do feedback, you just have to either email it in or, do different things like that. You can leave us voicemail feedback via email, any of those things.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegendspodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
All right. Well, that wraps us up for this week. We've got a new episode next week, and we look forward to hearing from you. Tell us what's going on at Dive Into DC, folks.
Absolutely. We just released our episode this week for Shazam! Fury of the Gods, so check that out in our podcast feed. And next time, when we sit down to record, which is going to be on April 13th, we're going to be talking about the first 4 episodes of Gotham Knights, which has been premiering on CW. So talk about Wildest Dreams. So if you're following that show and want to get in on that, send us your feedback at diveintodc@gmail.com.
Yes, indeed. And I will be doing that next week. Good stuff. Well, closing us out, I'll say that this is X-Force 11 saying, so say we all.
Silver Vox, we'll see you in Gotham.
This is your Eye in the Sky Green Butterfly. Stay safe, everyone, and have a super week.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, HBO, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Be sure to check out our partner shows, The Mandalore and Dive Into DC, covering your favorite Star Wars and DC Comics properties. Thanks for listening.